The story of Radio Revolution will not go untold, featuring everything from syndicated radio programs to sports to politics, broadcasts, and entertainment. The 1920s was truly the introduction of a radio craze. Tune in and let's get started. You're listening to WJHS 91.5, The Eagle. Welcome to Media in the Making, a podcast where we look at the evolution of media from 1600 all the way to present day. In this podcast series, we ask, how have different forms of media evolved and changed culture? Media in the Making, where media and culture are always changing. Now let's take a step back in time. I'm your host, Kyle Wells, and I'm going to be talking about the uprising and revolution of radio technology. Tune in for more information and the best podcast experience of your life. Let's set the stage. The 1930s. The Great Depression was the worst economic downturn in the history of the industrialized world. There was no passion and no hope for anything positive to occur, until radio entertainment created something that the people were excited for.
Some of the boys had their weekly card game at the lodge hall. And it wasn't until about 12:30 that the game broke up. Hold it.
Amos and Andy were one of the most popular syndicated radio programs of the 1930s. People from all over the world tuned in to gauge in on quality entertainment. This gave the people something to look forward to, and it aided tremendously during the Great Depression. Imagine waking up in the morning and actually being excited for what the day has in store. Must be nice. However, quality entertainment wasn't the only thing that drew radio attention. Entertainment was a huge factor, don't get me wrong. It's just a bit too obvious for me. Actually, I'm done with this conversation. Let's shift gears. Politics in general are disgusting to talk about, but we are going to do it anyways because this is my podcast and I do what I want. Before the radio, unless you were a hardcore Democrat or hardcore Republican, politics were irrelevant. Radio changed that. Politicians could go live to radio stations to campaign and share their opinions nationwide. For once, politicians' opinions actually mattered, and people tuned in a lot. Maybe the reason to this was because, as humans, we all like a little drama in our lives, whether we'd like to admit that or not. Or maybe it's because we didn't realize how interesting the campaigning process was until we heard updates each day. Either way, whatever the makers were doing seemed to be working because it was keeping the people intrigued. A cool dude named George Westington helped us out a lot. He created a type of programming that was so strong that large numbers of people could tune in from lots of different places and locations. Good job, George. Here, we're starting to see a developing pattern of people starting to care about their own lives. Maybe you're not into politics, and maybe you're not into entertaining rom-com programs. Maybe you're a jock. Jocks are pretty cool, I guess. If you happen to be a jock in the 1920s, you're in luck because radio contributed tons to the sports industry. Radio had the ability to make or break your sports career. Instead of reading reviews about how good of a player you are, why not record it live for thousands of people to hear? All things considered, radio essentially popularized sports figures and their accomplishments. They even recorded broadcasts so they could put them on air for people to listen to, instead of paying money for useless tickets. Guys, I don't think you understand. Radio was part of the Industrial Revolution. Radio had the ability to take people out of a depressive state of mind. Radio was advancing left and right, and the people were all for it. The 1920s was truly the radio craze. Don't think about radio as a relation to culture. Think of radio as its own culture starter. I'll explain. Radio pumped out American culture onto the airwaves and into the homes of families all around the country. This helped smooth out regional differences in language, music, and consumer taste. Radio was not a part of the culture. Radio was the revolution, and radio made the American culture excel and transform into something strong. Just think, when we first started chatting, America was in a bad place. And now, thanks to radio technology, we are happy and content again. I wanted to take a bit of time to talk. Being happy is a good feeling. With that being said, before I let you go, here's what I got. I know that learning about the past can be boring. I know that school and work just suck. But it's only what you make of it. We were blessed with a beautiful world and incredibly advanced technologies. Radio transformed the culture in the 1900s. But it's up to us to keep developing that culture now. I encourage you to give a listen to the other podcasts of the series, even though they won't be as good as mine. They might still be packed with good information. Talking about the 1900s was fun, but now I think it's time we get back to reality. Thanks for joining me. I'm your host, Kaya Wells. Catch you later. Media in the Making is brought to you by WJHS 91.5 in the Eagle Tech Academy media classes. Media in the Making, teaching you about the evolution of media throughout history. For more from the students, more podcasting series are on the 91.5 website, wjhs915.org. Thank you for joining us.